Okay, we are live. Here we are. Part two of a great panel we had over in Chicago. This is the Brand Partnerships panel with ESTA, the Esports Trade Association. Really glad to be back on this panel. We had a great conversation if you missed out. So we are going to kind of give some insight on a small recap of kind of what we discussed out in September, and really going to focus more on what the brand partnerships world looks like overall in this year, what next year looks like, and kind of where we are in the industry as a whole. So let's take a couple seconds. We'll kind of go around the room. We'll let our panelists introduce themselves, and then we will just dive right in. So, Paul, let's start with you, sir.
Great. First, it's good to be back. I enjoyed in person more than the Zoom. I feel like we're all tired of Zoom, but it's still good to see your faces. My name is Paul Brewer. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at a property called Rival. We're an enterprise platform designed to create gaming ecosystems for different organizations. We work predominantly with major sports teams, Seattle Seahawks, Detroit Pistons, Aston Villa, things like that, really to drive sort of that cross section between gaming and traditional sports, which we know, there's a lot of traditional sports fans who are gamers who are just not being always addressed in the traditional sports arena. So before this, I've spent the better part of 15 years in gaming. I was at ESPN working on the Madden Challenge. I spent some time at Samsung, about 5 years at Samsung, overseeing some gaming initiatives. Went back into the traditional sports world at Turner Sports, working on Bleacher Report and their golf properties, Sports Illustrated. And then after that, I went to a property called ESL, an endemic esports company hosting major large-scale elite esports events and competitions kind of all over the globe, where I ran sort of monetization, our brand partnership business for about 6 years. So yeah, it's been a long journey. I'm a lot younger than I look, or maybe I just feel a lot older than I look. But in any case, it's definitely been good. Working in gaming is still the best.
Love it. Thank you so much. Jenna, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jenna Johnson. I am the Director of Partnership Strategy and Activation for the lovely Version 1. So what we do is we pretty much manage all the brand partnerships that we have across. We have 4 teams now, 2 in Valorant, 1 men's, 1 women. We have Rocket League as well as Call of Duty team, Minnesota Rocker. So I lead all of the brand partnerships and relationship management there across our assets and across our 4 teams. My background was always agency. I worked in action sports for a year with Allied Action Sports on the winter and summer dew tours. And then I switched over to a sports and entertainment agency. I was there for almost 10 years. And the majority of my tenure, I worked on MasterCard and AB InBev for their global marketing strategies across their sports and entertainment partnerships. So I got to do some really cool launches with MasterCard's League of Legends, also with AB InBev's FIFA World Cup and other great things. So yeah, and then I got recruited by Version 1 and said no, I couldn't say no.
Excellent. And you guys are in Minnesota, right?
Yes, we are. We're located in Minnesota, Eagan, Minnesota.
And Paul, where are you guys at?
We're in New York.
New York. Excellent. All right, James, go ahead, sir. What do you got?
How's it going, everybody? James Santor. I'm the Strategic Partnerships Manager with Fubo Gaming. So we are the sports betting division of Fubo TV. Started back at Fubo in June. So I moved out to Chicago from Philly. And prior to Fubo, I was at 76 Capital, where we were one of the leading investors in the esports industry, the early stage side of things. So somebody that always grew up playing video games, loved video games. And I was blessed to be able to go to a company where I was able to kind of invest in what's next in this industry. So now kind of looking at it from afar, looking at it from a different perspective, it's been great to kind of see the growth of this industry over the past 2 years since I left 76 Capital. So, excited to kind of talk and continue the conversation we had back in Chicago a few months ago. But great group of panelists and happy to be back here.
Great, thanks. And I am the moderator. My name is Ryan Harbinson. I am with Clearbridge Branding Agency. We are a full agency based out of South Jersey with offices in Philadelphia and Chicago. Really everything that has to do with your brand, we help grow that audience and tell that story. My background in the gaming space is a little different. So started my career in retail. So Funko Land, GameStop, Game Crazy was managers for those organizations for a long time. Then moved in, became a developer. So I've got 2 games published on Nintendo DS and a bunch of games on the app stores as well as other platforms. And then I worked for a handful of publishers as well. So I've got about 100 games under my belt for Sony and Nintendo platforms, from pretty much GBA to Wii U era, and was kind of the jack of all trades over there. So ran development cycles, licensing, sales with direct buyers like Walmart, Target, and Best Buy. So I've kind of been all around, and I play games too and still love it. So it's great to kind of be back in the industry and around the stuff that I love. And I'm in a weird world where I'm a marketing guy that can talk tech, which doesn't really exist out there. So so really nice to have everybody back. Thanks for taking a couple minutes to kind of introduce yourselves. We do have a comment section and chat, so if you do have questions and you are watching, feel free to throw some stuff up and we will try to get to that if we can. But I do want to take a couple minutes and we'll kind of go back around and kind of get your insight and overview of kind of what the year looked like as a whole. Esports as a whole is definitely something new, and I think over the last 18 months, 2 years, has really started to kind of gain some traction in the mainstream, and people are starting to hear that term more. I mean, as we discussed before, everybody that's kind of under 45 years old is playing games or has played games at some point in their life, and when you've got Rocket League on ESPN during a Saturday, there's something going on. So, Paul, give us a little insight, kind of what you saw, what this year looked like. Some of the trends that maybe were different from the past year and what you're kind of seeing that's going to happen next year. And that's going to kind of be for everybody. So we'll take a couple minutes and get some insight.
Yeah. So look, I don't overstate it. But I'm excited. I think esports kind of came back in a real way, right? Coming off of a 2020 COVID stricken year where almost everything went online.
Yep.
February. I think the industry figured out a way to stay relevant beyond just, the saturation of online tournaments. I think the streamer world really took off. I think a lot of the content creators out there did themselves a lot of favors. And I think a lot of brands capitalized on it in 2021. 2020 was such a year of confusion of how do we activate and how do we sponsor and all of these things. And I think in 2021, brands came back to life and found a way to do that. And even if most of it was digital, I think it was still good. And then, I think what we're seeing now is actually some live events coming back. I mean, we already talked about a panel we were all on in Chicago. That was phenomenal. But I think actual esports events coming back. We saw DreamHack over the course of last weekend just happen in a real way with a live audience. And so I think that's been the exciting part is esports kind of actually coming back at the end of the day. And I don't want to speak to the sort of the brand world, but at the end of the day, I think that's a lot of what esports is obviously it's a digitally native audience, but there's a lot of live opportunities. And when you lose that during a pandemic, you lose a little bit of the soul of it. And so I think, what we saw over the course of this year was a lot of that coming back. The other thing I'd say is what we're going to see in the esports history books is that this year was the year that, crypto came into play in a real big way in the esports industry. We saw what happened with Team Solomid. Crypto.com is a major player. And I think, it's just the surface. I think in 2022, it's going to be a major player. It's going to be a major headline of how crypto plays in the space with this audience and around these games and opportunities around the competitions. But in 2021, we started to see that scratch the surface. And I think that's a super interesting way of seeing how brands can integrate with these teams and these organizations. I mean, Jenna can speak to it the way that a team thinks about it, but I think that's going to be 2022. A big headline is how the crypto companies get involved in competitive gaming.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of already seeing that too, right? With the GameFi elements coming into games now too. It's like the new free-to-play model, really, in an extent, right? So that's a huge world that we're seeing, and it's going to kind of transition us right into James's space here too. So James, where are you guys seeing that come in, and what have you guys seen has really been taken off?
Sure. Yeah. I think, the last few years have been really interesting for this space. I think when I first started at 76, when we were pitching investors to invest in a fund that invests in esports, a lot of people really didn't understand what this industry was. A lot of people just thought it was strictly video games. And I think obviously we all know that it's a lot more than that. And I think the pandemic really accelerated that from showing the people, hey, this is a way that people can really be competitive, can be exciting to watch from both sides of the eight ball there. So, I think after the pandemic, a lot of people were worried about what was going to happen when things did return to being in person and what's going to happen next. And I think this year has been really interesting for that because, again, like you guys have said, in-person events have returned and people are back to being not only watchers and streamers, but there's also those live event factors that people are able to go and experience what an esports event truly is. So I think that's important. And I also think a lot of the chaos around in 2020, I just think like looking at the streaming world, you had YouTube, you had Twitch, you had Mixer, you had all these different companies vying for the top streamers. I think a lot of that settled down now. So the content creators were able to focus just on their content and not trying to find the best deal.
And you got people jumping from one service to the next and coming back. Is craziness.
It's kind of like the college football carousel right now with all the coaches. So it's a way to kind of make that a little bit easier. So now it's, again, the content is king. And I think that goes for in-person events, just content online, no matter what it is. So I think for the future of esports, just really making sure that that content pairs well with the in-person events. And I think 2021 has really set the stage for doing that. I also think that the increased non-endemic brands that have decided to partner with esports teams. I know I talked about Gucci last time. They're continuing to lean into it. We're talking about Halo and the Halo Infinite activation that they had at University of Oregon at the football game last weekend. I think you're starting to see a lot more of that convergence, a lot more of that like natural convergence. And I think that's where this industry needs to continue heading. And I think that, again, 2021 set the stage that was previously set in 2020 to continue to have that, again, convergence of the in-person, virtual, and just the continued growth of this industry.
Yeah, I think it's fun to kind of see AR and MR marketing kind of becoming mainstream now, which is wild because the tech is just so crazy now. It's really fun to see that. And I think part of it too is understanding that, we went so virtual so fast. We kind of went like 10 years in the future in like 4 months. Like all the virtual components were there and now it's just kind of now found its place. So I think what we're going to be able to see now is that people are going to be able to embrace more of the virtual element when doing the live events, which opens up to a whole new demographic. And I know, Jenna, you guys have kind of been working and seeing the expansion of who you guys are getting in front of and all that. So give us a little insight on that and, how the year was for you.
So I think what 2020 did, like you just mentioned, gave a violent shove into the digital space, especially for non-endemic brands who maybe touched it a little bit, but really didn't like to do anything digitally because they're used to their traditional sponsorships, LED boards, paid media, print, all that stuff. So when 2020 hit, I mean, you can name it from any category. Look at the food industry, for instance, like they all went onto apps and having their own digital access. So esports kind of got a great platform opportunity for a lot of non-endemic brands because they're like, ooh, that's a good way to do that. But I think what we've done this year, we took some risks this year for sure. We were lucky to have our Minnesota Rocker home series. We were able to host that in July because the world opened up, thankfully, in Minnesota. So we were able to give those fans engagements. We were able to do watch parties, taking that whole aspect of NFL or whatever you want to call it, watch parties, and kind of bring it to the esports for our Minnesota Rocker team at a favorite bar in Minnesota. And, being able to leverage our partners on top of that with it. Our Waconia Final Circle Shandy beer, we would offer free beer for them with them promoting it. So we were able to give our partners a little bit more interaction and engagement with fans on a smaller level and kind of introduce that slowly back while still having the content and the digital pieces that make it what esports is so unique. But what you're going to find, I think, in 2022 is you're going to have this eclectic mix of virtual experiences, live experience. You're going to have a hybrid. And I think that's something that's very important for all of us to teach brands. How does that look? There's going to be times where it doesn't work and there's times when it does work. I think what we did really well at Champs was we were on the ground doing a lot with giving out free Minnesota Rocker t-shirts and making the fans feel engaged and important because at the end of the day, a fan is a fan. They want free shit. But they also feel identified with their teams. Even if in esports teams bounce around. So like, they want to feel identified, but I think you can do that digitally too. And that's what we're going to start seeing a lot more in 2022 and building that out.
Yeah, I mean, there's something nice about it too. And we had talked about this on the panel in Chicago too. Like, you can watch football all day and you can watch basketball, but like you can't like find a group of 11 on 11 and then go outside and play football as soon as you're done. But if you're playing a shooter or you're playing a racing game, like, and you're watching like a team that you love play, and then you can just go and play. So it's this weird thing that we haven't seen where it's the fans are just involved in the sport as well as the players themselves. And speaking of that, and Adam kind of already beat us to it. So Adam, good job on your end. The collegiate level is something that I think that is going to be big in the next 2 years. I think it's really starting to make some noise. I think part of that is the value that colleges are seeing in that sponsorship and bringing those partnerships in with different publishers or manufacturers to be like a sponsored like place. So we can kind of go back around. James, I know this is kind of your world. You're loving the collegiate world. So give me a little insight, kind of what you think the next 18 months looks like, and who is kind of leading the path, and like who everybody's kind of copying off of, but already kind of ahead of the game already.
Sure. Yeah, I think CSL and my guy Rob Johnson over there, they've done an amazing job at creating not just partnerships, but really like natural organic partnerships that are really going to grow this industry forward. Because I think at first it was kind of just hey, how is somebody going to have a partner? How are we going to do this the quickest way to make sure we can make an announcement? And I think as this industry has matured, CSL has done a great job of making those true partnerships that are not only just great for both sides, but they're really actually helping this industry. So, I saw they're doing something with Maryland. It's one of their Playflies partners who is a parent company of CSL. They're activating with Maryland. Maryland's hosting this tournament. It's natural. It makes sense. It's a great school. It's a great opportunity for all the people playing in the part of this tournament for the collegiate side. But they're also hosting this and creating sponsorship opportunities through these collegiate opportunities, which kind of goes in parallel with what's happening in collegiate institutions or NCAA sports right now with NIL. So it's allowing not only the players to make money, it's allowing the organizations and teams to make money and continue to growing and get better. And I think another company that's doing a great job in this amateur collegiate side of things is Nerd Street Gamers, who just opened up the block in Philly, which is an unbelievable. I haven't got to see it yet since I moved away, but it's a one-stop shop for everything esports. So
I'm gonna check it out. I'll let you know. It's down the street from my house.
Please do. But yeah, it's a training opportunity to have, again, the best types of equipment, the best types of competition all in one place. So I think that's going to start to be replicated across different colleges and different cities and different geographic locations, because I think, again, the next step of college esports becoming really, at the forefront is accessibility. It's having the right technology for them to use, and then the right competitive advantages and create competitive opportunities from a tournament perspective. And that's what CSL and Nerd Street are both doing. So I think it's been great to kind of see that. There's been a lot of great partnerships that they've made this year. And I think 2022 is going to continue that trend.
And it's a great way to kind of like set the new standard where it's not just like Doritos and Mountain Dew and sit in front of the computer for 12 hours, right? It's like dietary supplements and how to do this and exercise. And when people are training, it shouldn't just be in front of the machine the whole time, because you need people to be sharp. So it's good to kind of see that health element being integrated into the collegiate era too. And
CSL's done a great job with that too, because that Maryland tournament, they've got coaches that are not just coaches; they're also
like nutritionists.
Yeah,
it's very important, because if they have a sharp mind, then the reaction time is better too. Like you can't just pump it full of high fructose corn syrup and expect them to do well. So
imagine traditional sports without those types of trainers.
The
injuries happen already. The same.
Some of those guys spend millions of dollars a year on their bodies to be in shape. It's crazy. Exactly. So, Jenna, with everything kind of coming up, especially in the collegiate side of things, it's just the same as traditional sports now, because now you guys are going to have to start hiring like scouts and all that. Like, how are you guys seeing that? Is that something that you've been thinking about? And now, like, you're starting partnerships with other colleges to kind of get the cream of the crop and sign them into the the pros when they get out.
So, what we actually had a great partnership this year with Community. They help provide scholarships in the esports space for the HBCU schools. So we definitely partnered with them, and we wanted to promote that aspect of it, make sure that people have the resources they need on a monetary value, because college is expensive. And, schools haven't yet, some do, but not all have scholarships available for them to go and compete in esports and get those kind of accolades to become a professional. We do have a director of esports strategy who is our recruiter for our players, and our coaches are very involved as well, from a collegiate level to a challengers level to, just keeping their eye on the space all the time. But what we have done a lot lately has just been a part of the community. So my partnerships manager, Dylan Pomeroy, who is fantastic and very passionate in this space, does a lot of, he goes in on panels for a lot of local high schools, and he travels to college campuses to talk to them about maybe it's gamers, but it's also what does this industry look like in jobs and what can your career be? It doesn't have to be just a content creator. You could be the graphic designer, and you could work in partnerships.
They need accountants.
They need accountants, and honestly, like financial literacy is a big, health and wellness and financial literacy are two big goals of mine in brand partnerships, because you're unfortunately not taught this well at school. And we want to make sure that these guys who are people, women and men, are so young and getting so much money and not knowing what to do. There's an education platform available for them. And
we've heard the horror stories with them putting all their money in PayPal and then doing content, streaming it that are in, the violations of the platform. And then their accounts get frozen and they have like $500,000 in a PayPal account.
Yeah, and that poor kid. My heart goes out to him. But and health and wellness is a big initiative of ours. Our players during the pandemic, they had access to a therapist if they needed it. They are on a regimen where they have to work out at least 4 times a week. They had a nutritionist available for them at all times. We make sure that they have a sleep schedule that's conducive to what they need to do to practice. I really think that that's the best part of where this industry is going. It's no longer the person in their basement chugging a Mountain Dew and eating a bag of Cheetos. Nope. It's having those resources available. And these are real athletes. Like, they are not just like these people who play games all the time. They're an actual, real, smart individual athletes. And I think that doesn't get noticed enough. And I'm glad that the direction is going this way with health and brand partnerships. So we have a couple of areas that we're trying to go after next year for sure.
And Paul, I know it's kind of a different story for you guys, so give us the insight on where you guys are involved in the collegiate world.
Yeah, so obviously, James mentioned CSL. We're in conversations with all of them. We're autonomous to some degree, and it's not about just partnering with one. So the CSMGs and the Learfields of the world, we want to support those ecosystems. The reality is, rival as we work with these pro sports teams. There's a lot of colleges that they associate with, just the same as Jenna described on the Rocker side. So, I think there's an opportunity for us to create these environments and support the gaming and competition. It's not just about esports. And even, I see some of the comments, even what Jenna was mentioning and what you said, Ryan. For us, it's so much more than just the high level, like this school has an esports team. For us, it's about curriculum. It's about educating people on the business of esports, finding touch points that are outside of just, elite competition and UC Irvine's esports team. It's about how do we educate and help to support, accountants at these teams or things like that. So I think our partners, these teams, they're a good facilitator of that because it's so much more than just competition. It's about building community and engagement.
Yeah, and just to bounce off that real quick, I hope I say your name correctly, Lynette, but she said something in the comments here about curriculum and really making sure that people understand and the schools themselves make sure that people not only are playing these games, but understanding the business behind it. I think that's something that, again, I started in corporate finance for my first job at an insurance company. My dream was to always work in sports. And I think that when I was looking for my first job, I thought the only opportunity was in traditional sports at like a major team organization. So I think whether it be esports, for my current job in sports betting, there's so many job opportunities available in these industries that for people that want to be in sports that just don't even know they exist. So I think it's a huge opportunity for colleges, even high schools, to offer this type of curriculum to show a pathway to get into sports in a different way. So absolutely. I think, it's a huge emphasis that needs to be placed on the curriculum and these opportunities. And, not enough schools are doing it yet, but hopefully over the next few years, we start to see that.
Yeah. I think it's the box is open, and I think it's kind of, where's it going to go? Because there's a lot of opportunity and there's so many schools that are looking for, ways to get in students as well. So We are winding up, so we got about 6 minutes left. So let's take like a minute and a half each and kind of go around and just kind of give us the last little bit. So what do you think is the big thing, and where are you guys seeing the next big trends? So let's start with you, James, again.
Sure. Yeah, I think I saw something really interesting today, actually. The metaverse. I think the metaverse in general is something that is become like a real big trend of just something like a hot topic people are talking about. Well, today, the NFL announced that they're doing something with Roblox in the metaverse. And I think that the metaverse itself is something that really lends well to esports. And again, I think the best part about esports is that connection that the gamer or the teams can make with the actual consumer or fan. I always use the example that I can go watch Joel Embiid play in the NBA, and I can't go replicate that because I'm 5'9" and not 7'2".
Yep.
So I can go watch somebody play Halo Infinite or Call of Duty or whatever it may be, and I can say, you know what, I can learn from them. I can get better with that. And I think kind of the metaverse in general will allow people to continue to get more engaged, feel more a part of that team, that streamer, that player, whatever it may be. And I think that's something that, again, over the next few years across all different sports, and technology in general will continue to grow rapidly. So I'm excited to see how the metaverse is continuing to integrate it into the esports world. And I think it's a huge opportunity for teams and people that are making these brand partnerships.
Yeah, and I think part of that too, what we're going to see is we're going to see that hybrid of physical and digital together, with NFTs being part of that, right? So like I can buy, merch in the store for game X, and then I can automatically have that shirt on. And then I can use my crypto to buy that, right? And then 2 days later, the actual physical item is sent to my house. And I think that's what we're going to see in the metaverse, is this hybrid between real life and avatar life, but mixed kind of together. So
creating value for those digital assets that used to just be, once a game's life cycle was done, the skins you buy, whatever it is in that game, they're kind of done. But now I think that, again, what you just said, that's not going to happen anymore.
Everything is leveling up, and everything is gear. I mean, even things like Fall Guys and all that, like it's all based on the gear that you have. And did you catch the store? Because it was only up for 18 hours, and you got it, and you had enough crowns to buy it, or all the GTA stuff. I mean, there's a reason GTA is still alive 10 years later, and it's on 3 consoles. It's absurd. So, yeah, Jenna.
Oh no, I mean, metaverse is mine, so thanks.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding. Crypto, I think, is going to be huge. You touched on it, Paul, earlier. But I think you're going to also start seeing, start seeing a lot of different brands that you would never think that would be involved with esports, and you're going to see a lot more of the hybrid experiences. So you're going to get the virtual, like the metaverse and the crypto coin, but you're also going to see a lot more live experiences and the digital combined. So I think you're going to start seeing like the smaller brands. We have a craft that just popped up and scared me. We have our own craft sponsorship craft beer sponsor, with Waconia Brewing. You're going to start seeing a lot of smaller things like that come about and make their own beers or make their own apparel or something like that. And it's going to come out of nowhere, and it's going to we're going to take a small brand and make it to a national brand. And we're going to take the non-endemics and make them look endemic because of how we can merge these worlds with our teams and within esports. I think you're going to start seeing that a lot more next year.
Get Paul.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've hit on all the trendy stuff, right, with NFTs and metaverse and crypto. So I'll talk about the last one to keep James out of hot water. I think we're going to see a little bit of a boom of esports gambling. I think that is going to be another frontier to help drive this the same way fantasy sports drove the NFL. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think the world's going to open up, and we're already seeing it overseas. I think this country will see some of it as well. But between, the metaverse and NFTs and crypto and now gambling, I think we've hit on every single trend you can find on the internet.
Well, I have one, so I'll leave mine. So, I look at it from more of the fact that only so many things are being played, right? And we talked a little bit about this in Chicago as well. I think there's a whole world of games that are just kind of not being looked at. So pretty much everything is PS4 and up, right? And I've been a component of this for a long time. I think there's a whole area of PS3 and down that is just kind of not being looked at. For myself, I don't really watch a lot of people playing stuff, more shooters than anything, very rarely, but I'm a single player guy. I like single player stuff. Like I want to see someone that is great at like Hitman Blood Money on Xbox 360 who has just memorized everything and just can play the game perfect. Or, maybe I want to watch a league that is only Super Dodgeball for NES, and that's all they play is Super Dodgeball for NES. I think that there's a lot of that coming. I think that we're going to see kind of the industry as a whole, when they're throwing big tournaments, kind of be more like a concert where maybe like the sports game or the shooter is the main act. And then the middle act is maybe like a Hitman. And then like the opening act is somebody that can beat Ninja Gaiden in 8 minutes and not die. And you get to watch that live. So it kind of brings other people in the industry into it that play games all over the spectrum. So that's my non-trendy thing. That's just my guess. But
I didn't know you were old enough to know Ninja Gaiden. I'm so proud.
It's the baby face. I'm 39, so it's what it is.
No, it's a good point, right? What you talk about. I think we've all seen one of the highest viewership pieces on Twitch right now is chess. Like it's Counter-Strike or Dota or League. It's
awesome.
Like it's insane, right? So I agree, Ryan. It's such a good point that it's going to be probably more than just the traditional top 3 or top tier esports.
There's a lot. Why can't Combat on 2600 become like, a professionally played game? Like it's I said this before too, and we'll kind of leave it on this, is the industry will really become super mainstream and people will be talking about it, right? Like how do you get it to the point of Wii bowling? That's really where we need to be as an industry. Like people that didn't play games played Wii Sports and still do today, right? And I think what you're going to see is one of these days, Stephanie, 68, from Nebraska, is the greatest Tetris champion you've ever seen in your life. And that's when everything really starts to come, is when ordinary non-gamer gamers come in to the world. And, I think we overlook the fact that there's a huge demographic that doesn't realize that they are gamers because they think playing games on their phone is not a gamer, and they play Candy Crush for 80 hours a week. So that's the people we need to get into the scene to really make it kind of be more of a Wii bowling-esque. All right. Well, we will stop there. I appreciate everybody. This was a great conversation. Really glad that we could get everybody on. Great insight. The comments are blowing up. People are having conversations with each other. I love to see that. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you are not a member of the ESTA. What are you doing? The Esports Trade Association is a great organization to make friends, learn more about the industry, and stay up to date on what's going on in this world. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and stay safe out there. Thanks.
Bye guys.
Everybody.